Look at your hand. You can't see it from the outside, but inside those cells is DNA from a human species the textbooks told you was gone. Not a mutation, not an error. Many people alive today carry about 1 to 2% Neanderthal DNA. A human species the fossil record says vanished around 40,000 years ago. Museums put them behind glass, gave them labels, talked about them in the past tense, but they're not behind glass. That DNA is not a fossil. It is active, shaping things like immunity, skin, and pain response in ways science is still mapping. The species you call Neanderthal never fully ended. Part of it became you. And the story of how that happened is not what the museum told you. You probably learned it in a sentence. Modern humans left Africa. Neanderthals were already there. We arrived. They disappeared. That sentence left out about 7,000 years. Around 47,000 years ago, the first modern humans moving out of Africa reached Eurasia, where Neanderthals had already lived for roughly 200,000 years. What happened next was not immediate replacement. They lived near each other for thousands of years. Researchers analyzed ancient DNA from 58 early human genomes, published in Science in late 2024. They established the most precise timeline yet. The two populations interbred starting around 47,000 years ago, across a period lasting approximately 7,000 years. They had children together. Some of those children survived, had children of their own, and carried both lineages forward. That is not a theory. It is readable in the DNA of people alive today, in that 1 to 2% you are carrying. So why did Neanderthals disappear at all? In 2010, a geneticist named Svante Pääbo published something his colleagues had considered impossible for most of his career. He had extracted usable DNA from a 40,000-year-old Neanderthal bone and sequenced it. When his team at the Max Planck Institute compared that ancient genome to modern human genomes from around the world, the old textbook picture would have predicted a clean separation, 2 distinct lineages, a clear before and after. That is not what the genome showed. In populations with ancestry outside sub-Saharan Africa, the Neanderthal genome left a direct fingerprint, not from a shared ancestor, but from Neanderthals themselves. Traceable, specific, sitting inside living genomes. The signal is strongest in many East Asian populations, common across much of Eurasian ancestry, and much lower in many sub-Saharan African populations. Pääbo received the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 2022 for this work. Why did Neanderthals disappear? Part of the answer is that they didn't. Not entirely. The species didn't vanish cleanly. It partially merged, and that merger has been sitting inside you your entire life. Not all of it stayed. When researchers at UCLA and Cornell analyzed genetic data from nearly 300,000 people, published in eLife in 2023, they found that Neanderthal DNA did not scatter evenly across the modern human genome. Most of it faded. Generation by generation, modern human variants outcompeted the inherited Neanderthal ones, but certain regions held. The segments that survived are not random. They cluster in specific functional areas, particularly the immune system, metabolism, and early development. Natural selection kept them. That means the Neanderthal DNA still present in living humans today is not just leftovers. It is the part that worked well enough to stay. The part that, at some point in the last 47,000 years, helped someone survive, and so kept getting passed on. Which raises the question, what exactly was it doing? Here is what Neanderthals had there that modern humans didn't. Time. By the time our ancestors arrived in Eurasia around 47,000 years ago, Neanderthals had already been living there for roughly 200,000 years. 200,000 years of exposure to the bacteria, fungi, and parasites of that specific environment. 200,000 years of immune systems being tested, failing, adapting, and passing on what worked. Modern humans arriving from Africa had not been shaped by that environment in the same way. The pathogens were different. 2 independent research teams, one at the Max Planck Institute, one at the Institut Pasteur in Paris, came to the same conclusion while working separately. Both published in the American Journal of Human Genetics. They found Neanderthal variants clustered in immune receptor genes, the ones that sit on cell surfaces and detect incoming threats. The same regions, the same result, independently. Those variants made immune cells more reactive to certain microbial threats. For a population entering an unfamiliar disease landscape, Inheriting immune genes already calibrated to that landscape may have made a significant difference. The Neanderthal immune inheritance wasn't a curiosity. It may have been one of the reasons you exist. But those same immune cells didn't come with an off switch. Both research teams found the same trade-off. The Neanderthal variants that made immune cells more reactive to microbial threats also made them more likely to react to things that aren't threats at all. Pollen, grass, dust. In the modern world, that same sensitivity can push the body toward overreaction. The reactivity that may have helped your ancestors survive an unfamiliar disease landscape, that same reactivity is still running today. In an environment where many of those original threats are gone, it has fewer old enemies to aim at, so it starts aiming at the wrong things. This is not a flaw that appeared recently. It is ancient immune code doing what it was shaped to do, in a world it was never designed for. If you have allergies, you may be paying a 47,000-year-old debt you never agreed to. There is a particular way we usually frame this. The immune system overreacts. Something has gone wrong, but that framing assumes the body is making an error. The body is not malfunctioning. It is running instructions that were written for a different environment, one where that level of immune sensitivity had real enemies to justify it. The same ancient code, a different world. This does not mean the symptoms aren't real, or that treatment doesn't matter. It means the origin of the response is older than the diagnosis. You are not broken. You are, in a specific biological sense, slightly out of place. The same way a fire alarm works exactly as designed, just in a building where there is no fire. Neanderthals are not the only ones. The deeper geneticists look, the less human evolution looks like a clean tree with one branch becoming us. It looks more like a web. Populations meeting, mixing, separating, and meeting again across hundreds of thousands of years. In some African populations, researchers have even found genetic signatures of ancient groups with no fossils, no cave sites, and no name. Ghost populations. They existed. They left DNA. And we have found no physical trace of them at all. In his Nobel lecture, Svante Pääbo put the deeper problem directly. The genome does not draw a sharp line between us and the archaic humans we lived alongside. It draws a gradient. The museum label says extinct. The genome says something else entirely. Look at your hand again. Same hand as the beginning of this. The museum label still says extinct, and in one sense, it is correct. There are no Neanderthals walking beside us now. No living population, no continuing culture. The species as a species is gone. But the boundary the label draws, between them and you, between ancient and modern, between the case and the person standing in front of it, that boundary was always softer than the glass. About 1 to 2% of the DNA in those cells came from a population that was supposed to be gone. Selected for, kept, still running. Svante Pääbo spent decades extracting an answer from ancient bone. And what the genome gave back was not a sharp line between us and them. It was a gradient. You have been carrying that gradient your entire life. In your immune system. In your skin. In pieces of biology science is still mapping. Some of it may even be firing every spring, aimed at a world that no longer exists. We put them behind glass because we thought we knew where they ended and we began. But the genome was less certain than we were. The species you call Neanderthal never fully ended. Part of it became you.